the stuff I talked about, it seemed like it just resonated throughout his entire, because like because I was asleep through half my math classes because they were so boring. I mean, and I hated biology because all he said that he did was memorize. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I like concepts. I like analyzing. I like things when they make sense. And if I'm just saying they're memorizing mitosis, but then later on, I understand the reason behind it, but they didn't tell me that. They just said memorize it. Here's the definition. I'm like, okay. But then, if things were done differently, maybe I might be a biologist or something like that. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. Thank you very much for coming to my session on basically KP Compass. So I'm Wang, founder and president. Started this company many years ago, back when I was like 2. And basically with the dream to be able to build a tool and a system that works well for learners like myself. Stephanie Burks is out there trialing people right now. She is, she's actually an instructor at the Southwest Career Academy down here in Las Vegas. And she's going to be talking about her personal experiences with using the system effectively with her students. So she's going to use her for about 5 years now. And later on, we're going to have my chief architect and CEO, Sean Dalton. He's the super programmer. I'm only like a minor programmer. But when I started, I had to teach myself programming, so no form of schooling involved there. So we're here to talk about this. I understand in the description, what the heck did I write in the description? Imagine a world where every student, that's not familiar, where every student has a personal tutor, primary job becomes personalization. KP Compass is an online student-centered mastery system designed in HTML5 with big data analytics to create a personal learning profile and an adaptive form to assess blah, blah, blah. It acts like a personal tutor. All right, so how many of you actually read that? How many actually really liked it, what it said? Okay, kind of sort of. But you're all curious here to find out what it's all about. So I actually do a lot of discussions about flipping the classroom and going into the concept of why, because a lot of what we do is to incorporate the flipped classroom concept. So I'm going to start with that a little bit, but then I'm going to jump into what the system does. So it's kind of like a little primer. You want me to jump forward and move ahead and saying, enough with this, just go into the meat, just like everyone collectively mock me at the same time. I'll do that. Okay, so I just want to ask the first question, is like, why do we flip? What's the primary reason why we want to flip the classroom? Anybody? Increase student engagement. That's true. So we want to increase the student engagement with content outside of classroom. So the net result is what? What? Create what? Create greater student learning at a higher level, and to not that, but like more time for hands-on activities, workshops, doing the things that really make the most sense. Because like the speaker said this morning, the system isn't about the deployment of information anymore. The information's here. The information's here. My iPad, not my head. And we're the stewards of that, and we curate that information for students. So that's the reason why we flip. Because the other reason why flipping classroom works is because the textbooks of yesterday do not fit with the students of tomorrow. So the reason why sending students home with the textbook is that it's a medium that they can't digest. They're digesting things in a whole entire different manner. Having a tablet with written text, they can digest it, but when it's printed on paper, for some reason there's a disconnect. That's the problem I had, was that it was disconnected from that entire medium. So you can hand it to me, I can chew on it, I'd be like, I'd spit it out, and I may have to go out 50 times to really get it, but then you hand it to them in a different way, using digital media. So that's why flipping the classroom works. I know you heard a little bit about me for this morning. I'm just going to reiterate some of the facts, but this kind of goes a little more detail. But I just want to tell you why I'm so passionate about it. Well, first off, I was made in Taiwan. Yes, I got more chuckles in the noon session. Okay, cool. It's okay to laugh, so don't worry. Even though you all laughed at me today on stage. And I was exported here when I arrived at a tender age of 2, like everything else that kids at school. The reason I bring it up because, like all Chinese people coming from Asia, we opened up a Chinese restaurant when we immigrated here to the United States. So oh wait, no, that's right, that's the next one. Because I was Taiwan, I had a problem with language. I was English as a second language. I couldn't read effectively. I had to go for 2 years of speech class to be able to speak like I do now, which is like crazy rambling talk. So they did a pretty good job, didn't they? Yeah. So the thing is, like, I had reading deficiencies. I couldn't read a novel, and that added to the struggle that I had growing up here in the United States and the education system. Like I said earlier, we opened up a Chinese restaurant. I only bring that up because, like, we didn't have anything coming over here to the United States, and I grew up in poverty. So we were on food stamps and everything else like that. Even though we had a restaurant, we didn't. Funny thing. I also struggled with problems with, you probably know, ADHD. I was never diagnosed because, fortunately, since we had a Chinese restaurant, we were so poor that my parents didn't take me or didn't want to take me to a psychiatrist to get me medicated to take care of the problem. So I say fortunate because I turned that deficiency or that problem into my greatest asset because I had to learn to cope with that problem, which actually wasn't a problem. I just couldn't hold my attention, but I had the ability to absorb information. So now as an adult, compared to my peers, I could absorb information at a far greater rate than everyone else because I had learned to harness the ability to multitask, to be able to divert, to be able to absorb so much more, and then I didn't have to focus on one thing to be able to really understand it. So it's actually not a problem. And the reason I bring it up is because, like, how many of you have students out there who have problems like this? Not a problem. No, it's the norm now. Back then, it was just a minor thing because people were just starting to play video games and watch MTV because everyone blamed MTV for that problem. But now it's everything and everywhere. So I relate to these kids because I was one of them, as they are now. So because of that, like I mentioned, I love video games. Video games held my attention, and using gamification and a lot of things, I want to incorporate things that are in games that really drive me to achieve and succeed through those games. Which led me later on to computers. I found myself programming because programming was fun, because I could do a whole lot of things with programming and code that no one else could do. It was awesome. I could hack too. And then which led me to become a digital learning specialist. The only reason I took you through this entire sequence about me is because I wanted to let you know that the entire reason why I do what I do, why I created what I created, is because for a very selfish reason. Because I wanted to create a system that worked for me. I wanted something that is mine. I wanted something that works, so that in turn it'll work for students out there for you. So. Actually, now that you're here, there's Linda. She's a user of our program. She works with culinary arts students who are not the academically tracked students, right?
Right. I'm a user and a pusher of this product. Okay, so just so you know, that's why I'm here. I'm the user and the pusher. What I like about this is that you can have differentiated instruction, and kids with any learning disability or your top-notch kids can use this. All right, so that way they could access your content at any time. If they need to read it 5 times, they need to watch the video 5 times, they have that ability. Because how much time do you have in your class? 55 minutes? How many of you have 55-minute classes? How many have 85, 90-minute classes? Right? We spend a lot of time pushing content, right? You're pushing content, and you have maybe a third of that time for application, or 15 minutes for application, or you send them home homework for application. What Nai's going to show you now is a way that you could transform that into the content delivery. Is going to be much easier, and kids can go through it at their own pace and master it, and then you could be there as their coach and guide for the application part.
All right, so I'm just going to show this a quick little funny video.
Okay, we're going to stick this in here, and then I'm going to pour in the milk. I hope this works because I didn't bring a change of pants.
Look, I Googled it. It's a fake picture. That's it. No cake for you. Anyone else want to join the no cake club?
It's just kidding, boys and girls. Everyone gets cake.
All right, who here loves Big Bang Theory? Raise your hand, come on. Nerds, being nerds and their daily antics. And it's true to life, really true to life, I can attest to that. I love that show, but it really illustrates how, this is what they expect. They're used to, they're accustomed to going, hey, I need to know this. Where is it? Well, gone are the days of having to actually transport yourself to a library to go look up a Dewey Decimal System card to find a book or article, or even worse yet, to go to look into microfiche and scan through all those articles to be able to get to the information you need. So all that's gone. You don't need to worry about that anymore. We got content, we got information, and that's what they're used to. They go, okay, I need to beat this level on this game. How do I do it? They look it up. That's what they do. So it's a really great illustration of that. So, this morning's speaker, we're not talking about the traditional classroom. I don't need to talk about that. Blah, blah, blah. We don't need to talk about why I put my classroom because you all know why. So, I'm going to go back to this slide here that I briefly mentioned. I only had like 30 seconds to talk about it on stage, so I'm going to spend at least 3 minutes on it here because I really want to elaborate on the fact that, how consumption of entertainment kind of affected the way our education system works and doesn't work. Like, here we have iconic cartoon characters. So when you're growing up, you identify with Mickey Mouse. So anybody Mickey Mouse fans here? All right, beauty. So you love these characters. You grow up, you get entertained by them. They make you laugh, they make you cry, and do these things. And all you're doing is sitting in front of television, eating a bag of popcorn or chips, and watching the boob tube. So that was the way you absorbed information. We're kind of trained from when you were a kid, but hopefully your parents didn't put you in front of TV when you were a toddler. But you know people who do that, right? And that's how you were kind of trained to kind of look at the world in a sense and absorb the information. Then in the 1980s, video games came out. Super Mario Brothers, Snake from Metal Gear Solid, Link from Legend of Zelda, and Sonic the Hedgehog. So instead of passively watching the entertainment happen in front of you, you're actively controlling the lives and the destinies of these avatars, and you're identifying with them. So when you jump into a pit and kill Mario, you kind of feel sad about it. You're like, oh darn, why did I do that? Jump over the pit. So students want to do these things to be able to win the level. So they control these avatars to be able to do that. So, like in the education system, they are expecting the ability to be able to control the destinies of their avatars. They want to control the destinies of their education system. And when we walk into a system where they're just sitting passively absorbing, that's when we lose them. That's when we disconnect them. And that's one of the reasons why we built the system, is we wanted to incorporate gamification areas, things that make it fun, things that make them be able to try things and level up. Because if they stumble and they realize that they did worse on a level or something like that, they have the ability to learn from their mistakes and get better from them. So that's my theory that I've been working on since I'm a gamer and a structural designer. What do you think about that? Good? You like it? Yeah. Got thumbs up. All right. We love thumbs up. All right. So just really quick here. The whole entire flipped classroom concept became popular because of Khan Academy and Solomon Khan. Because he started throwing videos online and people started using it. The way I see it is he didn't invent flipping the class, but he made it popular. So that as educators, we're actually getting positive press in the media about how this new medium called the YouTube and the internet is actually going to revolutionize education. But as we know, it's actually not just that. It's actually getting kids to engage in content in a medium that they're used to. Like I said earlier, textbooks, they can't digest it, but they can digest it in other ways. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to give them multi-modalities of learning so that they have a choice to pick among a buffet of choices of what they have. So with technology, it's made it easier so that we can provide them that kind of choice in a way. So what I call a flipping class is actually homework 2.0. You're actually sending the kids home with stuff to do, and this time they're actually going to most likely engage in it, more likely than a textbook. So it's nothing but more than just sending them home with homework. So let's take a look at what we need. Let's see here, are we on time? Oh, perfect. Only spent 7 minutes on that section, which is exactly what I predicted. All right, so what do we need? Well, first off, in order to do what we do in the classroom, we need content, like whether it be PowerPoint documents and whatnot. And that content is an integral part of what the Compass system does, because we take that content and we match it into a meaningful way. So, and you get an OER content. Now, there's people who have paid for content, and that's a trickier waters to navigate for that reason. So a lot of people have like content that they've already assembled through like going to various websites. OER stands for Open Educational Resources, which are usually funded by universities, and they have a lot of great content as well that they put out there for free. Another thing that you need is devices. So computers, laptops, mobile phones, tablets. These devices are so much more powerful than a computer that was built like about 6-7 years ago, if you could imagine. And they're all in our pockets now, so we need to harness it. So a lot of schools are going one-to-one. Anybody here have gone to one-to-one in your school? One-to-one, kind of? Ooh, far fewer than I expected. All right, so for a lot of schools, it's hard to do that aspect. So a lot of people are embracing this movement called BYOD, and it stands for Bring Your Own Device. Because we have these students have these devices in their pockets most likely, and why not use it in a constructive way? Now, there's a lot of people out there who say no, you can't do that because because you have to control it. You don't want them to text or cheat or do something like that. Anybody part of a school system that says that blocks or bans everything? Okay, yeah. Now, recently, studies have shown that people who have embraced this process, and they actually set up really good guidelines and rules, have had far fewer infractions and disciplinary actions because they've embraced it. Reason being is because they set up and established clear parameters of when and where you can use these devices. So if the student infracts upon it, or infracts upon it, if a student violates that rule, they get their device taken away. And since it's their device, they don't want to lose it. They want to have that privilege. So that's actually turned around to be something like of a responsibility lesson for the student. So it's actually turned out to be a great thing. Since I got an extra couple minutes, I want to tell you this little story that I heard from Bill Daggett during the Model Schools Conference.
Well, I was going to say, this one is the one that those people that have all devices banned from their schools, tell this story to your school board and tell this story to your superintendent, okay?
And this came from Dr. Bill Daggett during the Model Schools Conference. He's with the International Center for Leadership in Education. During that conference, he told this little story about about pencils. Back in the Great Depression, not the current Great Depression, but the other one that we had back then, the education system was facing a huge budget crisis. Does that sound familiar? And so they had to do something, and do something drastically. Somebody came up with the idea of, hey, these kids, they all have pencils at home. Why not allow them to bring those pencils into school and use those instead? And then what happened? The education community went up in an uproar. Oh my gosh, they say. We can't do that because when the students come to school, they open their desk, they take their pencils out, they close it, and they use it, and then when they're done, they put it back in its place. We always know where the pencils are. We can't allow them to bring their own pencils. Because what would happen is, what happens if they take that pencil and use it to write on a wall? That'd be terrible. Destruction of school property. What if they use it to pass notes between each other? We wouldn't want that to happen. Worse yet, what if somebody gets their eye poked out? Oh gosh, that's gonna be terrible. And cause distractions with these pencils. Now it's just a funny story, but you can totally see the analogy of they were really afraid of losing that one piece of control. But in the end, we realized it really wasn't anything, right? So smartphones are like the pencils of yesterday. They're devices that can be used for many destructive purposes, but there's so many things you can use it constructively. Why not embrace that? And the last thing is, especially with what we need is access. Now, the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people say, hey, my school area is really rural. I don't have internet for every single student. My students don't have internet. But the truth is, they're resourceful. They know how to get internet. The internet is like their lifeblood, right? So they know how to get to it. Most of them have smartphones with internet already. They have an Xbox with internet because they want to play online games. How are they getting it? Well, maybe they're stealing it from their neighbors. They hacked into their neighbor's Wi-Fi. Who knows? But the other thing is, they can get internet for virtually anywhere. So the entire argument of internet inequity is being squashed at a tremendous rate to the point where there's nothing. Because what happens is you could go to any of these places and get free Wi-Fi. You can go to school, the school library, and get, or most schools have open Wi-Fi for their students. Not open, but controlled. These students, they know how to get to the internet.
Yeah, they have computer labs, and public libraries have computer labs that students can get to, right? And it's free, and the schools have it, and some classes have after hours. If these kids need a phone, they could get to one. If they need the internet, they can get to it. So, and what were you saying? You had mentioned rural, the hotspot. Tell them about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to find a place with internet, just Google free Wi-Fi hotspot, and then there's a site that you just type in the zip code, and it'll show you everything that's free around that area. And it's amazing. You just go, like I had a teacher who lived in rural Texas, and they said, oh, we don't have internet anywhere, and I typed it in, and like, oh, there's McDonald's there. Oh, yeah, they're like, yeah, that's right. And there's a Home Depot there. Yep, they have free Wi-Fi too, and so on and so forth. So it's just amazing that, that access is not an excuse anymore. All right. And then I'm just going to quickly breeze through the 4 categories of systems to kind of differentiate a little bit what we do. So there's 4 categories for online tools. We got project management tools. Tools that are specifically designed to manage projects effectively. Content creation tools, you need those to be able to create original content. Content management tools, which are basically tools that help you organize the content online and make it in the cloud. And the important thing is the content needs to exist in the cloud now, not on a thumb drive or a hard drive on the computer. And then learning management systems, which are basically ways to organize students. So, did you want to go back? You were taking a picture of that. Okay.
See, if we're going to do that, how could we expect our kids not to want to do that? Take a picture of the slide.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to show you a video here.
I let my kids do that all the time. I'm like, somebody need that?
Now this is a project management tool that's really one of the best tools that's free out there, called Trello.
If you've ever had to coordinate a team of people working on multiple projects, you know that the hardest part is keeping track of where everyone is up to and what everyone is working on. That's what Trello helps you see instantly at a glance. This is Trello. Trello is really simple. It's just a bunch of lists, and each list has on it multiple cards. And each card is one of the little projects that your team is working on. On the right-hand side, you see a bunch of images here. Those are all the people on this team, and they all have access to this board. And this particular team is a company called Artist Exploitation Incorporated. What they do is find young garage bands on YouTube and then give them an extreme makeover and then an exploitative recording contract. So on the left-hand side, we have the new bands that we've just found on YouTube, and when we find a new one, all we have to do is click Add Card and type in the name of whoever we found on there. Each of these cards has a bunch of stuff on the back of it, which you get to just by clicking on the card. This one has some voting, as you can see. There's a bunch of conversation, like a little chat here, and of course you can upload and embed things. So there's an uploaded YouTube video of the band live at work. The first thing that we're going to do on this team is pick the top ranked bands. Everybody votes on the ones that they like, and the ones that are best, we're going to actually do live in-person auditions. And so we're just going to drag over some of those cards into the audition column in order to choose the ones that need an audition, and then I'm going to assign people to them. So I'm going to assign Lena will be in charge of My Little Brother, and Tyler is Canadian, so he can do Girlfriend in Canada, and Justin's going to do Sedate Dilemma. And I really like that Sedate Dilemma band, and it got a lot of votes. So I'm going to drag it up to the top here, so we work on that one first. By the way, this stuff is all happening in a web browser over the internet, and everything is instantly synchronized as you make changes. So whatever changes I make here will immediately show up in all other browsers, everywhere else on the internet. And so people can just keep a copy of this open on their desktop and immediately see what's going on with their team as the changes are made. They'll immediately reflect on it. All right, so Justin goes in, he does an audition of the Sedate Dilemma band. He thinks they're really awesome. We're going to sign them up, and we send them over to the makeover department just by dragging them over here. And I'm going to assign our makeover artist, Michael, to work on that. Michael is going to actually just draw a little image of what he thinks the band should look like. There's his drawing, and upload this to the back of the card where everybody can see it. There we go. And finally, he's going to send it over to the final review process when he's done. And I'm in charge of all the final reviews, so I'm going to assign myself to that card. And when I look at this band, there's a couple of changes that I want to make, so I'm going to add a checklist here of all the things that I want to change. First of all, I think it should be a little bit more glam. Secondly, I want to somehow find a way to exploit the teenage girls' love for vampires and Twilight and everything to do with that whole thing. And third, more cowbell, definitely. Once I've added my checklist, I'm just going to take this card and send it back to the makeover department where Michael's going to go in there and make these changes that I've asked for. He's already got a picture that has a slightly more glam version. And then you can check that off. For capitalizing on Twilight, he's just going to propose a different name band. That should do that. And the cowbell we can always add in post-production. No problem. So he sends it to me for final review, and I love it. And I just drag it over to the record first album column, where we assign our recording engineer, John, to work on that. Now, everything about this process is completely reconfigurable.
Hello, there we go. Back again. Now, what did you think about, what did you think about that? Pretty awesome? Yeah. Anybody here heard of Trello before? Okay, a few of you. Good. I've been to sessions where it's like dead. So if you have actually heard of it, you use it? No, haven't used it yet? You use it? You like it? Oh, meetings? Yeah, it's amazing. The reason I show this is because, well, first off, it's free. It's absolutely free, which is amazing. I've actually worked with paid-for project management tools, and nothing beats what they've done, actually. I mean, there's things that they don't do, but at the core of what you need it to do, it does an amazing thing. And it's actually, the really cool thing is like this company is offering it for free because they actually make a whole ton of money doing other stuff. And they developed this tool as an internal tool, and they thought, hey, we're using it, why not just let other people use it? And then somebody said, well, maybe we should charge them. Like, oh, why do that? We make money doing everything else. So they actually gave it away, and that's just like a really cool thing because that actually gave them a lot of popularity, and people are just like loving that tool. It's so simple. Yeah, so do you guys feel like you could use this in the classroom? Yeah? And the other thing is like, I recommend like you can download an app, you can go to the website, and you can just do it. Sign up for an account. Use it personally for like kind of like a personal to-do list or a checklist. Or better yet, use it as a to-do list for your spouse. Yeah, I see all the women shuffling and the men going, oh gosh, they'll give them that idea. No, I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. It's like, why didn't you mow the lawn? It's still in the to-do column. Why didn't you move it over to the, okay. Anyway, so it's just a great tool. It's free, it's easy to use. Anybody can sign up on it. There's lots of ways to configure it, and you don't have to do a lot to figure it out because they designed it and made it easy. And the beauty of this is like, all these different tools here. The reason we're able to do all these things now as educators, to be able to procure content and do these things, is because the tool sets out there make it so that we can easily do it. Like 10 years ago, you'd have to have like a technical expert to do a lot of things. Like if you want a video edited, you have to do a lot of things to make it done. Now you can just whip out your cell phone, videotape something, do some minor edits on it, and then push it onto YouTube. So there's a lot of great content creation tools out there that allow you to do that. So the other thing is like, you need learning management systems to be able to facilitate the online learning effectively for your students. So a lot of people use Blackboard, right? Who here uses Blackboard? Few of you. All right. And a lot of you use Moodle, right? How many use Moodle? I put Edmodo up there because it's a really great, I wouldn't call it LMS, but a lot of people use it like an LMS. It's like the Facebook of education. So they do a lot of Facebook-like things in Edmodo. And then anybody use a LMS system called that starts with the letter C? Canvas? Anybody? Now Canvas is, you use it? You like it? Okay, okay. Actually, I think Canvas is the Blackboard killer. So I really love that company because they're taking a really great modern approach to learning management systems. Now so you notice that KB Compass isn't on that page. It's on the page called Content Management Systems. Well, Content Management Systems allows you to be able to organize content online in a meaningful manner. Google Drive is a great example because you can upload files into the cloud, share it with people, use collaborative documents. You can even upload videos to it. Dropbox was really good, but Google has surpassed them significantly because it's not just a file repository anymore. You can actually do things with Google Drive. And you get 15 gigs for free. SlideShare is a great way to upload PowerPoint slides and make it into such a way where it's like a YouTube or PowerPoint. And then there's KB Compass. Now, KB Compass is actually not a content management system. KB Compass is what we call a content learning management system, or a CLMS. Now, the biggest difference with KB Compass is that we want to organize content in such a way that it gives students immediate feedback and to be able to do these things using adaptive technology. So all these systems out there are kind of like a separate system, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to connect everything together to a way that we could actually accomplish formative assessments, gamification, projects, and badges. So I'm going to jump over here and go right into what the system is, because I know that's what I wrote about in the description, and that's what you're here all for. So what you're seeing here is basically a module called food safety. Oops, let me go ahead and go back to zero. There we go. And we have, over here we have what we call content. Content is basically whatever it is you need to be. It could be text, it could be videos, it could be like animations or whatever. This is what we call concept pages. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get students to understand and learn and master concepts. So if I come over here and click on foodborne illness here, this is the concept of foodborne illness. So this is information about foodborne illness and everything that you need for that. And so you think of it like, if you're organizing your information, you put one topic on a document. Then what you do is you would actually have the students engage in that content, and they would learn from it. So they're going through this module, and they're learning the content. Now, then what happens is they have an opportunity to click on this button called Check Your Knowledge. What this basically means is the student's gone through and studied, and they say, okay, I need to know what I know. And the biggest thing is like we're not using the classical terminology for testing, such as test, quiz, or assessment. All those things have negative connotations because they've been beat down with it for many years. And secondly, it's not even a test, quiz, or we don't even want them to think about it that way. We want them to think about it in video game terms. Like, when you're playing a video game, you're making it to a checkpoint, and you made it to some place where you can kind of get a measure, or you make it to another place where you can kind of earn an achievement. So what we want them to think about is like, here I am, I just went through a study session, let me check myself at a checkpoint. So when they click on it, what happens is the system will select questions from every single topic here in this module. So they'll pick like 3 questions from here, 4 questions from here. Basically, like every single page of content has its own mini test bank. So the process of this entire thing is like, you're going to answer questions, and this is what we call our personal digital tutor. Because think of this system as a person who's sitting there in front of you, and you come to me and you say, I need to know what I just learned. And I'll say, okay, let me ask you a bunch of questions. And after you've answered the questions for me, I'm going to tell you how I feel you know about this information. So for instance, I feel like you know this information. I'm going to put a green dot next to it. This is what we call scholar level. This one, I feel like you don't know this information. I'm going to put a red dot. This is what we call novice level of understanding. And so here, and the orange ones just mean that you're an apprentice, what we call apprentice level. That means that you've shown that you've known some things, but you have room for improvement. So this is immediate feedback to the student, which is really awesome because like most of the time when you have to do if you're cramming for a test, you have that 10-question quiz in the back of the chapter, you answer, you get 50% wrong, you look up the answers. Is that real learning? No, not at all. So in this case, they just did a knowledge check. Now they give me feedback. Now they're told, you know this stuff, you don't know this stuff. And in fact, what happens is we take them into what we call a remediation round. So what happens is, and this is automatically happens, so I'm just kind of doing it manually to kind of show you this, is that the pages of content that we feel that they know the information on get removed from their current study bank. So now the focus has been narrowed. So because the focus has been narrowed, now the students can actually go and look at this information. So if I were looking at this as a student, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to spend a lot of time on these two, and I'm just going to look through the other ones just to kind of see if there's anything I missed. Then after that, they have an opportunity for another knowledge check. So coming back to the tutor, they say, I just studied again, tell me if I improved or not. And the tutor will say, okay, I'm going to ask more questions. Different questions, not the same questions, because we don't want to keep repeating over and over again until they get it. What we're doing is we have an adaptive artificial intelligence that uses item response theory to be able to figure out which questions are more important to be able to get them to learn than other questions. And Sean actually arrived in the back, and if we have any questions about that, he's the expert on that learning theory. So if anybody has questions pertaining to very high-level learning theory, analytics, and other coding things, he's down back there to answer those questions. So, and actually, if anybody has any questions, feel free to interject. But so I'm going to just take you through the process and of how the students learn. Then I'm going to talk about like how to integrate this content. So they go through a second knowledge check. The tutor will say, okay, you've proven that you know this stuff, so I'm going to remove it from your current bank. There we go. It's being removed. And then you did better on this one. And what we also do is we do what we call trending arrows. So if they did better, we put a green arrow moving up. If they did worse, and they can do worse, they have a red arrow moving down. So as a video gamer, I hate being told that I did a level and I did worse than before. So what we're trying to do is we're using these motivational cues to indicate to them that, hey, if you really bombed on this, we're going to tell you you did awful. And so that you actually can look at it and go, wow, you know, I did do awful. Maybe I should spend a little more time studying so I can get more green arrows so I could basically level up. So eventually what happens is that they repeat this process over and over and over again until the focus narrows down to just the concepts that they really need to focus on and study. And eventually when they're done, this is the beauty of it. We actually paint a picture of their brain. So when you think about this, if you look at this and you see mostly greens, and you're going to a summative examination, do you feel confident or do you feel like you're going to bomb it? You should feel confident because you have mostly greens. Now the cool thing about this is the students now have a picture. They know what they're walking into. They're never going to be walking into a class and saying, I just crammed, I hope I could do well. Now instead of that, we can say, I just tested myself. I've tested myself many times and I feel like I could really do well on this test. Testing and confidence go hand in hand. So because of this, I can walk in and confidently say, I know these topics, oh, but I still have these 2 red dots. So do I want to study or do I want to play more video games? Remember, the choice is up to them now. So they can choose not to, but now they know. The mystery is gone. We're taking the mystery away of what they're walking into. Because as they go through a system and they go through all this feedback and they get told this, and if they don't act on it, it's on their fault. So not walking in blind anymore. So what do you think about that process? Is that cool? Does that make sense? Do you think it would take benefit? Any questions? Oh, the test? It's just true, false, multiple choice, and short answers. Matching. So if it's asking for what is the color of the sky, well, that's subjective. But anyway, yeah, they have to type in the exact word. Now you can do essay submissions, but you have to do it in a different way. So, but that has to be human intervention. We're talking about an automated process that they're doing on their own without any type of intervention from you as an instructor. Now you as an instructor can actually do this, which is come over here and this is what you get to see. You can see your students across all the different modules that you've developed and see which ones are having issues, which ones are doing well. And like this one, if you see the numbers in the parentheses, that actually represents how much effort they put into that module. And what I mean by effort is how many times they've actually gone through that self-assessment. So this student does a lot of self-assessments because this student required a lot of repetition and remediation to be able to master the content, which is not a bad thing. And in fact, this student is an IEP student so we encourage them to do it many times. So you can see this person 4 times, maybe we need to go in and do an intervention and help them out. This is really cool. If you look at this student here, 1's across the board. So that's our typical coaster. The student who just coasts and does the minimal amount of effort to get by. And we have those too, right? But the tool is designed for them to help themselves. So if you're not using it to help themselves to get better, then that's that. But we put in so many things in there to basically take it so that they're not just out there reading a book or studying or doing something blindly. They're getting this aspect, they're leveling up, they're getting feedback, they're getting different types of cues to be able to encourage them through learning.
And you have data for those parent-teacher conferences or testing conferences. You have the data to show their effort.
Absolutely. Okay, we got about how many minutes left? About 7 minutes left. I'm going to show you 2 quick little things. Linda came through and scanned your badge, so basically we're going to send an invitation so that if you want to use the system in your classroom and try it out for students for free, I'm going to send that invitation. Also, please remember to scan your badge when you're exiting so that you'll get credit for attending my session as well. And they'll send you an evaluation, which will tell them if I'm any good or not. So anyway, so I'm going to show you this last 2 things and then take some questions. So you can create summative exams in here by just going to basically what's going on is we have the ability to create summative exams in here. I'm not going to talk about that. But the cool thing is that we actually have the ability to predict the future. We have the system in here that what we're doing is we're actually collecting data. We're collecting data about how the students use the system and how the results are. Like I mentioned during this morning session, we're using Amazon.com-like analytics, where they're tracking people's shopping behaviors to predict what they should buy and things like that. We're using roughly the same technique to be able to use it, to be able to data mine the usage of it, and we're creating personal learning profiles. We want to know how they learn as much as what the results are. So because we're doing that, if you create a summative exam, which is basically coming down here and taking questions out so that you can print it, we created a system, a new tool called Test Overlay. And what Test Overlay simply means is, as an instructor, you just pick these questions. Then you would go to that tutor who's actually been working with your student, and you say to the tutor, these questions I just picked, you know that my students so well, would you be able to give me a prediction as to how well they would perform? And the tutor will say, yeah, sure, I can do that. Let me go ahead and go through a series of algorithms in my head, because I'm awesome like that. And I'm going to give you my best guess as to the grade and the certainty, of that grade. So this is some of the things, one of the most amazing things that we're doing at KP is that we're using data to be able to create meaningful reports and to do something with it to help the student out and the teacher out too. So what you're seeing is is basically the guess. So I feel that Amber will get a B with a 60% certainty. Over here we have Chad, Susan will get a C with a 50% certainty, and so on and so forth. Last year, when we developed this tool and had teachers use it, they reported a 70 to 80% accuracy on our predictions, which is phenomenal, phenomenal. So what do you think about that tool? So what you can do is you can export that to a spreadsheet, run this report on Wednesday, find out the students who need help, and then run it again on Thursday, compare the data, and then run it again on Friday just for a test and see how it all gets panned out, and show it to your administrators too. So that's pretty awesome. So do I have any questions about this? Yes?
Is this only good for individual learners, or can it be used in team-based learning environments?
This is for one-on-one self-evaluation. So if you need to do team-based environments, then you will need to organize it in a different way. We can create projects in here, which we have a base project management tool, but it's currently in alpha stage, so it's not ready for release. But the project management tool will allow students to be able to group together and form communities so that they could work together on a project. So no, eventually yes. Good question. All right, anyone else? Anyone else? Yes. Well, it's the way that's done is it is copy and paste. So let me just show you really quick. Like if you put a page of content in here, like This is a page that was basically using as a link to a website of information. And then so the way it's done is like every single piece of content is associated with a question bank. So this is the question bank for Blueberry Muffins. As you can see, I just typed in some gibberish. So we have a very rudimentary tool that allows you to be able to select a question, paste the question in, pick the type, so you notice that essays in here. Essay is for the summative exam, so you can print it out later. But so if you want to use this as a test creation tool, which is really awesome. Then we have like you pick the answer type, pick the level of blooms that you want to associate with, and then save it. And then that's how so then when you put a question in there, then the students will be assessed with it. Now, we recommend that you have a minimum of 5 questions, averaging about 9, the more the merrier. Think of it this way. I'm a tutor, and you've given me 4 questions or 3 questions to ask about this topic. I'm going to be really pissed off at you because you've kind of limited my ability to be able to figure out which one's better or which one's not. So if you give me like 10 questions, I'll be like, okay, I can figure out this question is actually better for students who are high achievers because we want to challenge them. And this question is really easy, so maybe later on during remediation, you could ask them that question to see if they actually learned that information. So remember, our system is intelligent, so it's to learn how the students interact with the questions because that's what it's designed to do using an response to. Oh, okay, yeah, 2-minute warning. But actually, the best yet, if you have any high-level questions, you can go to our booth, which is at 423. Remember how to remember 423?
After 4, 2, and 3 minutes.
Yeah, there we go. You'll never forget that. So, so this entire process takes you through that. So the relevant thing is like within a module, what we're doing is we're trying to create micro granular feedback. So they're not being fed back about a whole entire chapter. Every single topic they can get feedback on, and they can figure out the topics that they need to work on to be able to create higher levels of achievements. And that's the KP Compass system. That's my entire emphasis is to be able to build a system that does that. Does everyone like it? Yeah? You like it? Okay, a few people like it. All right. Thank you. So if there aren't any more questions, then I'm going to go grab some lunch. And remember, I'm going to email you an invitation on how to get to it. If you want to get to it now, you can just sign up at go to kpacte.com and create an account at KP Compass. It'll just give you instructions. And then email me, and probably later today, I'll flip your account into a teacher account. It's what's a teacher content. Now, I have culinary arts content that's already pre-programmed. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So I have teachers who are doing the business finance, music education. It's whatever content they already have. You know, they've already kind of assembled it. They just put it into a different meaningful way. Yeah. Oh, this is just a standard logic thing. It's simple. Oh yeah, that's how I do. That's my technique. You know, the leg technique. Yeah, I just use the mouse like I got on the table, but I just use my leg instead. Yeah, anyway. Oh, kpacte.com.
That's what I figured it was.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, yes. And actually, there's a, in the instruction booklet, I actually have little blurb of how you can create an app. Yeah. Well, because actually we're harnessing someone else's expertise and using their HTML code structure to be able to build that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just awesome. You're basically cobbling, we're using the stuff that's already out there. We're just kind of like the assembly point to make it kind of make sense. Yeah, thank you. Oh, hello. Oh, thank you so much. You like it? Yes, I am. Oh, yeah? Yeah, well, I forgot to put my business cards out. Dang it. Here's my business card. And if anyone wants my business card. Yeah. I believe so, yeah. Just send me an email and we'll connect. Thank you.
I'm giving out a little question. Can I, did you have a ball there? Okay, sorry.
It's still recording. Go ahead.